Hello, welcome to Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segala. I'll be your moderator. I'm also president of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. This series of shows are just really fantastic for understanding what's happening with the county. We try to find the very most knowledgeable people about the county, bring them in as guests, and they share their ideas and their concerns. And so we are better informed as taxpayers and voters. This is no exception. This is the second show with former supervisor Russ Thomas, who is also presently director of CCWD, Calaveras County Water District. And in this show, we're going to talk about some ideas that look into the future and perhaps having even more prosperity. Welcome aboard, Russ, and thank you for being on our show. And this is the second show. The last one was we talked about the water district issues. This time we're going to talk about some ideas that you had. One of the very few public figures that has come up with ideas for the future that make sense. And even though they're not totally agreed to right now, but in the future they could very well be. And we're talking about New Maloney's Lake, and now New Maloney's Lake was formed to withhold water that was flooding the valley, and the water is used primarily for agriculture, but also used for water for CCWD and elsewhere. And also it provides recreation. And then when they started this, they had promises along those lines. Anyway, tell us what you think.
Okay, this may take more than a half hour now.
Well, we'll try to get the key. If we get the key points in,
okay,
we're going to be okay.
Well, the New Maloney's Reservoir it's a well-known amenity for the citizens of Calaveras County and people all over the state come to recreate there. It was always my contention that it could be more adequately utilized if we had access from the O'Byrne's Ferry side of the reservoir. Interestingly, if a road could be put in that has the same footprint on the same alignment of the old Sonora Road, and this is the same road, of course, that Black Bart made his first and last holdup of the Wells Fargo stage on that road. So I've been out on that roadway a number of times, and it's still there and could be expanded upon and take you to the west shore of New Maloney's. Now, I became involved in this along with a significant number of people from Copperopolis and the county to appeal to the Bureau of Reclamation when they were filing for the renewal of their recreation management plan on New Maloney's.
Oh.
It's a 50-year document that was in its 49th year, and they had to renew it. And so we wanted to make sure that when it did get renewed, that they left the window open, or maybe a door open, to allow this road to be constructed so that a launch facility could put over in an area that's referred to as Texas Charlie Gulch.
Yes.
And you've mentioned a couple of times that you attended a session that I conducted at a Board of Supervisors meeting where I took Google Earth technology and was able to show how you could plop the facilities at Tuttletown are ideally, they fit perfectly over in Texas Charlie Gulch. You would have to flip them over from side to side to put them there, but we could have a launch ramp and adequate parking just like they've got over at Tuttletown.
We intend to find those videotapes of that Board of Supervisors meeting, which is a very good presentation that Russ made, and then have it on our website at taxpayers, calaveras.taxpayers.org, so you can see that presentation. So we can't give that presentation now, but we can do a pretty good job with a summary. And
Okay, but getting back to that, the availability of the pathway for that road, Dr. Morrissey and his wife owned the property, and they had very generously said yes, that they would allow the road to go through their property to provide this access. One of the urgent needs that was pointing to the justification for putting the road in was that Lake Tulloch has been overutilized for a good many years, decades. There's frequently 1,500 boats a day on that lake, and it's only a 1,200 acre lake, as compared to New Melones' 12,000 acre surface area.
10 times bigger.
Yes, yeah. So it was our contention, those that were interested in putting forth this idea, and incidentally, we went to Washington twice, and we went to up to Folsom a number of times, pushing and pushing and pushing for this opportunity to put the road in.
Who are some of the leaders that were with you?
Greg Meyer was there. Actually, we had the Board of Supervisors was very actively involved in this. We have a resolution that we submitted to Congress, asking for them to direct the Bureau of Reclamation to include this. It was an all-hands-on-deck type of an effort, and it was successful, but they said that we acknowledge the fact that it could be built, and maybe it should be built, but we can't build it. You can, if you find the money, you can build it, and we had ways of funding it. There was a good deal of construction going on in Copperopolis at that time, and hopefully that period of construction activity would come back. And I always felt like that if I had a home, considering building a home in Copperopolis, it would be worth it to me to pay an extra $1,000 for that home if I could make a contribution and get that road built.
Yeah.
Because I have a boat and I live in Copper Cove, and I don't like to put my boat on Lake Tulloch.
Yeah.
If I had the ability to get to New Melones in such an easy fashion, wouldn't that be a better choice? I mean, you got a boat too.
Yeah, I do.
So I don't know. It just seemed like a very logical thing. But then the construction economy, it fell into a recession time. But I've been talking about this with the current chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and there's an interest level, I think, that is coming back to the surface. I think that it would do wonders for the tax economy of Calaveras County, and the desirability of a place to live for young families. We've had a recent period where the young families are leaving because they don't necessarily have there's no employment base here.
Right.
But I mean, even old guys like you and I, we have boats. We would go over and
well, I'm mentally young.
Yeah, me too.
It's so in my body. Well, we'll have another organization that's coming back to life. That's a Copperopolis Area Business Association. I'm a director on that, and there is some interest in this, though there's almost total ignorance as to what it's all about, and that's why I think our Taxpayer Association and other groups too could perhaps help share the word about this, and maybe even if it's not our lifetime, it become a valuable thing in the future for future generations.
Well, I became aware of the. Do you know what the boat license fees pay for?
They pay for the boat patrol.
Well, no, throughout the state. I mean, a portion of those fees are held and used for building facilities. So that I discovered that if we could get the road in there and get a launch facility made there, that we could tap into those license fee funds to pave the parking lots. So
That's interesting.
Yeah. So there were multiple funding mechanisms, and I don't know, CCWD and the county are working together with a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., and this, to me, rises to a level of something that we should pursue to see if we can get some assistance to develop this recreation amenity.
Yeah.
That what was it was embarrassing for the people that were doing this recreation management plan revision to have somebody like me point out to them that in their original documents they had promised that there would be a huge economic benefit to putting this in because of the recreation. They speculated that it'd have 1,700,000 annual visitors to the lake. They have never had more than 800,000, and I was arguing that the reason that you haven't is because accessibility. If you come up from the valley or from the Bay Area, you have to go up Highway 4 through that windy road, go travel through Angels Camp. But can you imagine how much more accessible it would be if you could just go through into Copperopolis down a Burns Ferry Road and go 3.5 miles over to the reservoir? I mean, it's really a very easy access, and I think it would be used tremendously. But
this could also have an influence on the overall economy in that area. There could be feasibility that a motel could be able to function and provide opportunities for people to visit, and then maybe other things too.
Well, fishermen would be buying tackle and
worm sales would go up.
Yeah, worm sales would go up, but the service stations in the area, they'd be selling more fuel, and it would have a trickle down effect. I've always been convinced about it. I was very disappointed that this famous board resolution that I pushed through and signed as the chairman of the Board of Supervisors just has fallen off. Nobody remembers that it's there, that it was made. So just like so many other things that they need. What I visualize as like a short order cook has a wheel. You put this resolution on, and it stays on there until something happens. Nobody can take it off.
Hey, look, we got an order.
Yeah, but
well, I understand that some people have fear of progress because sometimes they fear competition, and I understand that the present recreation facilities, there was some fear about having future facilities that could be in competition with them, and they would not be in favor of it. But all these fears in the past had shown that to not be real, because by increasing interest in the lake, they also will have more business themselves, because they have things that are unique and that may not be at the other facility.
Well,
like a big campground as an example.
I'm tempted to use that old cliche as an appropriate one in this case. The rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
So
New Maloney's boats.
New Maloney's boats. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for me to listen to the people who were saying, "Oh, this is going to be bad for my business if you do this," because it was not justified at all. So I'm hoping that the idea will get traction and can come back. I know that the new group that has purchased all of the assets of Castle and Cook are very excited about it. They like the idea a lot.
Yeah.
They're shaking things up down there in Copperopolis. So
yeah, they are. And I remember bringing that issue up at a public meeting that they had they had a town hall meeting, and there was some positive comments about that. And if something's true and it's good, eventually it's got to come to pass. All it takes is people that care, that are willing to promote it a little bit. The possibilities. So where we are now would be to have communication with the federal government. Is that correct?
Today,
Yeah.
the focus should be to just make sure that recreation possibility is a component of the general plan that's being worked on. I mean, I first got involved in the formulation of the general plan back in 2006 when I was running for the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
And interestingly, here it is in 2019, and I understand that the Planning Commission has just finally concluded their considerations of the general plan, and it'll be going on to the Board of Supervisors. So the first thing we need to do is to find out, did they mention this road as a possibility? And if they didn't, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Now, this is the old Sonora Road, but is there another name for the road now?
Mm-hmm.
Old Sonora Road.
Yeah.
I think our taxpayers group will bring this up at the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the Copperopolis Area Business Association would have some input. They're just starting to grow a little bit, and are getting their feet wet, and it's difficult to make major commitments or decisions, right now.
The County Chamber of Commerce is something that they should be interested in as well. So.
Yeah, they lost a fantastic lady. Her name is Stacy.
Yeah.
And what a dynamic lady she is. And I'm hoping that they'll get somebody like her to replace her.
Yeah, she was a fun person. So.
Well, whoever it is, if they get excited about this, we have a better chance of having it in the general plan, maybe. Mm-hmm. Looking ahead, not to take anything away from this idea, but you've done so many fascinating things, including singing, that I had to mention you're involved with the UN project in Mogadishu.
Yeah, after the disappointment of not getting reelected to the Board of Supervisors position, I took advantage of some of my background in construction, and I got a job working for a company that had contracts with the United Nations, providing infrastructure at the international airport in Mogadishu. Right. So I was there on and off for about 3.5 years. Had some very interesting experiences. Slept through some others that might have been more interesting, explosions and such. But made a lot of good friends. Probably the most gratifying part of it was training some young Somali men to do construction and using Western techniques that I'm confident that will allow them to make a living for themselves and for their families and until they can't work anymore. So that was really good.
There was a young man, a very big fellow, who did a wonderful job on our property, which is next to yours. Mm-hmm. And he came here because of you.
Yeah.
And whatever happened to him?
His name was Morgan.
Yeah.
And I met Morgan when I was in that region. He was not in Somalia. He was in Uganda.
Yeah.
But I think he may still be on the East Coast. His hope was that he could somehow manage to stay here and bring his family over. That's the ambition of a lot of people around the world.
He's a good worker.
Here. Yeah. He was a good guy. He was He's big enough to move a tree when he.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to argue with him.
No.
Yeah,
But there's certainly value in traveling, and it's very gratifying to me that I had the opportunity to influence people like Morgan and some of his friends, and particularly my young workers. I had oftentimes about 20 young people that, you never think about the consequences of the observance of Ramadan, where you have to restrict your intake of water and food during the day.
right.
Well, it's very hot there and extremely debilitating. I mean, you should be drinking water constantly,
Yeah.
but these guys would work throughout the day, slow down a bit in the afternoon, but then they come back the next day and do it over again. But
They probably really drink a lot of water at night.
yeah. But one of the projects that I was working on was for a company that was distributing the food for the United Nations workers and for the Army there. And I had a provision in the contract that they would provide me with food that I could send home with these guys, and so that made them happy, made them very happy. So,
Do you remember a movie, or actually it's a news item, about the ship that was captured? It was by pirates.
Captain Phillips.
Captain Phillips. And I always thought about how could you have conditions where a country could harbor pirates, and where the country would protect them. It seemed to protect them. And what are your thoughts about that? What can be done to clean up piracy in that area?
Well, there's very little piracy going on now with the advent of predator drones and things like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, it was a very lucrative business for quite some time, and until people got aggressive about protecting their assets, and the international government said, this cannot be allowed to continue.
Right.
And so when they started cruising the predator drones around and attacking the attackers, then it's virtually non-existent now.
Well, that's good news.
Very good news. Yeah.
But the best news would be if the government itself would prosecute the people that do that are doing it, their own citizens that are doing that. That would be the best of all worlds. That means that they raise their level of civilization to recognize individual rights.
Yes, but the government has a long ways to go before they can stand on their own feet. I mean, that's why the UN is there. I wouldn't necessarily say that propping them up isn't the right thing, but they're supporting them. Yeah. And they've gone through selection of a couple of presidents. It is one of the most interesting times in my life that I was there at the time when they were formulating their government, and I was staying in a hotel downtown where a lot of the people who were there coming back from Canada and professors from the U.S., Somali, I think the term is diaspora. They had gone out and now they're coming back to help their country.
Oh.
Some of the most brilliant minds that I've ever had the opportunity to be sitting at the same table with. I didn't talk very much, because they were just so brilliant, and sadly, one of the men that I met there was he became the minister of the environment for the country of Somalia. The hotel where I used to stay and interact with him quite a lot was attacked and bombed, and he was killed.
Oh.
So.
That's sad.
It's very, very sad, and just points out the vulnerability of that area. So good people trying to do good things can be killed.
I think we have some American history involved with that area. The halls of Montezuma,
Yeah.
and our Marines.
Yeah.
I forget exactly all the details of history, but I think one of the reasons for our Navy is to fight piracy.
Yeah, there was the Pirates of Tripoli.
Yeah. And now maybe finally they're going to change due to drones.
It's a very effective tool.
So now, looking ahead, you have so much knowledge in so many different areas. In the county and the things that are important to the county, we talked about that the general plan should include the old Sonora Road and the access for no Maloney's, and there should be further contact with federal government about that. And what are some of the other things that you see that would be good for our county that we ought to consider, even if it's not in the general plan?
Probably the most beneficial thing that we could do in this county to assure the prosperity, the future prosperity of the county, is to put a roadblock up to keep people from Tuolumne County and Amador County from coming here to adversely influence the development of our county.
How would that how would they adversely influence the development of our county?
By waiving CEQA requirements waiving them and saying, you've got to intensify your examination of this project because we think that it will be a bad thing to build a few houses here.
Anti-development
people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they are dangerous.
Very. And it's been going on for a long time, and not many people know about it. I mean,
right.
it would seem to me that there'd be more people standing up and saying, "Wait a minute, what are you doing here?"
Right.
It's really a very big concern of mine. As you recall, that I led the effort in Copperopolis to do the Copperopolis Community Plan.
Right.
10 years of effort, absolutely. I mean, had a very devoted group of people that we met, not constantly. We had fits and starts and stops because of staffing on the county level.
Yeah.
But we had to spent $50,000 in having a facilitated visioning process for the community plan.
Yeah, I was part of that.
You absolutely were.
Yeah.
But where are those decisions and recommendations that we made? They're non-existent.
Right.
And they didn't get included in the general plan, largely due to the efforts of these folks who don't want Calaveras County to develop.
Right. It's almost like an anti-life philosophy. That there's some beautiful thing about death. I can't. It's like socialism. You get government so big, then all of a sudden people are starving, and then they blame the rich people for the people starving. Well, yeah. We're at the end of our show, and it's such a delight to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, Al.
Thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert.